Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be starting this drawing here of this botanical form, these dried leaves. And today's lesson in nuts and bolts is really about the beginning of a drawing, the gesture, choosing a certain tool for a certain reason, and specifically the importance of working with a certain speed and pressure. All right, so let me just dive in and then we can discuss. Here in the very beginning, I'm going to create a very light, what's known as an envelope. It's a way to sort of see the overall shape that these leaves form. And in doing that, in creating that envelope, I'm better able to position the subject matter on the page where I would like it to be. It's a much easier and better strategy than trying to find leaf by leaf where things are. So that's the opening statement, is to create that very light envelope. And now I'm able to take a quick gestural look at some of these leaves without being specific. So the speed is somewhat quick and the touch is extremely light. And you'll notice that I'm pausing in between my moves. The slight pause becomes critical with this way of working to assess where I've come from and where I'm going. In this way of working, my intention is not to be specific about these shapes, about these leaves, but instead to have a soft general understanding of the subject matter. Another way to say this is that I'm getting familiar with the subject. I'm just getting familiar. It's like saying, hello, what's going on here? In the lightest touch possible, knowing that the drawing will go through other iterations. When working with this kind of tool, it's important to have a flexible wrist. Not stiff. But flexible. That allows me to really literally feel my way around these shapes and forms. My attention is constantly moving from one area to the next in order for me to better establish relationships between these various parts.
I'll take a little bit. One more pass, yes?
Now that was my first pass.
Great.
Now I'm making a second pass. Looking at it a second time. You'll notice the lines are getting slightly darker. And I'm combining essentially two ways of seeing or working. One is known as a schematic approach, where the lines tend to be pretty straight, providing structure. And then those schematic lines are co-joined with contour and cross contour. Still pausing in between the moves. So the speed slows down a bit, and the pressure is slightly increased to make corrections and adjustments to the drawing. At this stage, I'm still avoiding lots of details, which can come much later. It's still important at this stage to keep my attention moving throughout so that I don't get stuck in a particular area for too long, or to get caught up in too many details too soon during the process. In watching this video of myself drawing, I am reminded of an important bit of advice that I received from one of my mentors in college, Howard Warshaw, who instructed me to learn how to caress the volumes in a loving fashion, to caress the volumes. He was helping me understand what it is not to just make outlines, but to literally touch the forms, to feel as though I'm literally touching. But this term caressing is also apropos because it connotes a level of sensitivity of the subject. And now I'm going to wipe this, as you see, and that creates a beautiful, rich overtone. And finally, with the kneaded eraser, I'm lifting out the spaces in between. Those are known as negative shapes or negative spaces. I think of them as enter spaces or enter shapes. And later I can go back in and push this drawing even more, both with tone, line, more detail. But this is now really looking at the figure-ground relationships. So this really marks the end of this first stage of the drawing and prepares it for the next go-round, the next layer of thought and activity. This is just my opening statement for this study, this botanical study. It's going to go through more stages. It's going to be more involved. But for this video, I wanted to show the artists out there and the public how I begin a drawing like this. First, I choose my tools wisely. In this case, a piece of sanguine conte, which is quite small. Why? It allows me to make the opening statement with very soft marks, not hard specific lines. That way I'm not committed to anything. This is just a general sense of what's before me. So that's choosing the tool. Then the two factors that we mentioned before, speed and pressure, they come to play. I keep the speed in the beginning fairly quick in a gestural fashion. That allows me to move from one leaf to the other fairly quickly to get a sense of their relationship and where they are relative to one another, which is really important. And that's the speed then. It's fairly quick in the beginning with a soft touch, and that's the pressure part. So by having a very soft touch with a very sort of broad general mark, and then finding out where things are in the beginning, that's just to get familiar with my subject. Okay, I'm not trying to get specific. Then, as you noticed, I made a second pass. There was a first pass, getting a general sense. And then I made a second pass where this time I was slowing down ever so much, and I paused a lot more. And the line became a little more emphatic. It's still not dark, it's still, I can always erase this and it will go through changes. But by making a second pass, by slowing down a little bit, and by making the lines a little more specific, I have more clarity. Finally, you noticed I wiped it to create an overall tone, and then as part of my ability to see this clearly, I lifted out the negative shapes. Now I have a pretty good sense of what's before me. But because I know that I want to see this more clearly, there will be other phases, other passes, and even other tools. So this is a bit of a snippet, if you will, from the language of drawing where we discuss this way of working and others. But I thought it would be fun to share this opening statement with you.